This is the heartbeat of human services, a peek into the inspiring stories of our community and all things DHS. Join us.
Welcome to today's podcast, The Heartbeat of Human Services. I'm your host, Janice Slagle, and today our guest is the Director of the Kern County Department of Human Services, Dena Murphy. We are so happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you, Jana.
Thank you, Dena. It was wonderful being at the Board of Supervisors today and hearing all the amazing work you've done for the past 28 years here for the Department of Human Services. Congratulations.
Thank you. That was massive, to hear that and compiled in one reading.
Mm-hmm.
It just it takes me back to when I first started as an extra help job developer, and I was just going to conquer the world, and I really felt that people needed the dignity of a job, and that just really became the dignity of life as I went along with the department, and I've really loved my career.
I love that about the dignity. That is one of my questions I had for you, because I read that your parents taught you how to pay someone for the work that they do for you.
Yes, they said if you ever have a little extra money, a couple of quarters to rub together, to make sure to offer the opportunity for someone else to make a living, if it was chores or gardening or something, that they then could in turn take care of their own families, and that would strengthen their family, the individuals, and the community. And they called it having the dignity of a job.
I love that. That's just a beautiful way to look at things.
And that's what brought me to the Department of Human Services.
Isn't that? So tell us a little bit more about how you brought together the business community with government and your kind of vision with CalWorks, and how you kind of operated that and began that.
Well, we named CalWorks KernWorks, and really when I came to the Department of Human Services, it was because I had a lot of business contacts and started recruiting job openings for some of our clients who were not necessarily skilled. They were entry-level jobs, and they were willing to work with some individuals to give them an opportunity and train them, and it was really well. There was still AFDC in place, but it was changing the culture and setting a tone that the department would be a place to get a job, not to get money, but to actually get a job and then improve the circumstances for your family. And so I've had a lot of success in developing job openings, and then along came welfare reform, but the businesses stayed involved, and then some of the I would call them the heavy hitters in our community, Ray Watson, Ray December, Mary Jo Pasick, many others, joined into what was called a business advisory team, and they helped develop the blueprint. They actually made some trips to Sacramento, but our local business leaders helped us develop Kern County's blueprint for welfare reform.
I recall a large event at what's now Rabobank or Mechanics, but you got together a lot of people for that. Was that part of what you're talking about?
That was our formal kickoff to KernWorks.
Okay.
Because we decided we would call CalWorks KernWorks locally, and our director at the time, Don Dudley, asked me about how would you roll out such a big change, and I said it's very important not to dilute the message. So you tell everyone at once, everyone that will come, your partners, the people that you're collaborating with, your own staff, so that people don't then interpret what you're saying and start to tell others. And we invited just that, the community members, our partners, our staff. We left a skeleton crew here, received permission from the board, and went to the Rabobank, and there were 3,200, and
I remember that.
Don Dudley put his message out about what we were going to do, what we were going to achieve, that people were going to have the opportunity to go to work, and then we would come back to the community annually in the same kind of forum for the next 3 years and hold ourselves accountable for the outcomes that we had promised the community. And we did just that, and we were very successful.
So the vision was really helping people help themselves, so they didn't have to rely necessarily on government funding for their own lives.
Exactly.
Is that part of that?
Exactly, and role modeling for their children so that they could break the cycle of dependency.
I love that.
Yes.
I think that's one of the myths sometimes people have about what we do is that we're just, the welfare department, and that isn't just what we do, is it? We really do help people be self-sufficient and teach them the skills that they need in order to become, to get the jobs, like you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of background work to make that successful. For instance, Morgan Clayton ran a mentoring program where he placed some people in employment, and then a group of us would meet with those individuals weekly and really talk about their skill sets, the growth, what needed to be, what challenges needed to be resolved for them to be successful moving forward, transportation, etc. And that morphed into some of the economic development and larger companies coming into town, and us partnering with Bakersfield Adult School and with Bakersfield College, and actually tailoring courses for the work that it would take to refine our clients to become their employees when they got here from out of state.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So really giving them skills that they could use to find
For the rest of
really
their
good
life.
jobs the rest
Yes.
of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. So, and you mentioned also, or it was mentioned, that you had been a job developer. Was that part of your journey?
Yes, that was part of my journey.
Part of your journey
That's
here
how I
at
began
DHS?
with the department.
Okay.
Roy Wiegand from the Kern Taxpayers Association talked to me about my business contacts and about how we might model something to really teach people how to go to work, and then how we could get business involved with government
Yeah.
to make this a success and to give the people an opportunity.
I love that. Do you feel like that's grown since you've been here, that whole connection with the business and the government and the jobs? That's
Absolutely.
really developed a lot, hasn't it?
Absolutely, it has. And
Yeah.
we have partnerships with, like one of our other county departments, Employers Training Resource, where we have work experience program, and we fund that, and an employer can defray the costs of hiring an employee for a 6-month period while that employee is training and learning the trade, and then have a trained employee working into the future for them where they come off of that subsidized employment.
That's great. That's such a great program. Switching gears just a little bit, another thing we learned about you today is that you were, when in your earlier days, were a ski instructor. I thought that was great. I could just picture you on the slopes of Mammoth, or I don't know where you did this, but can you talk about that a little bit?
Mammoth, Holiday Hills, Shirley Meadows, Heavenly. Yes. So, locally on weekends a lot with Shirley Meadows, and I would teach kids. Isn't that
Okay.
funny?
I
I
love
skied
that.
backwards, and I held the tips of their little kids. I held the tips of their skis, and I had a air whirly gig on a hat that I wore. And, the kids weren't frightened. It was safe, and I had great fun with it. And the bigger kids, also known as adults, would go on bus tours, and there would be a couple of ski instructors that would go and then instruct the group, and that's where I went to some of the bigger spots. But I loved that.
How
I participated on the ski patrol and also some racing.
Wow. So did you grow up in Kern County? Is that
I was born here and I grew up here. Yes.
So then did you learn to ski as a child?
I learned to ski not as a child, but just after high school.
Okay. Here in Shirley Meadows, or up
It was actually up at Bakersfield College, and there was a dry land ski school. So you'd have to hike the mountain and ski down on, but I just had a knack for it. I took to it quickly, and then I had a couple of very incredible individuals who were just, they were semi-professionals at points in time. One was a Olympic hopeful, Georgine Billman, and she took me under her wing and taught me so much. And
What
then
a fun
there was
thing.
a raft of folks, and we'd go up, and they would take turns teaching me, making me do things that I wasn't comfortable doing, and learning. And
Mostly downhill skiing then? Did you do cross country too, or downhill?
I tried cross country a couple of times, and I loved it. It was life in slow motion.
Yeah.
Especially if it was snowing at the time. It was just beautiful. But I was a little more assertive than that. It was downhill, and it was speed, and I just loved
You
it.
liked the energy of that. With your long red hair flowing in the breeze. I
Oh,
could
it
just
was all
picture
tucked
you.
in a helmet. You're so funny.
I love that. Well, that's one thing that just was interesting to me. Another thing that came to mind when I was thinking about knowing you is your heart for animals. And I just recall how you take care of the strays in the area with feeding them and just different things. And I've just admired how you have had a heart for animals. Did that start at a young age?
It did. And my mom and dad, we have had a ever-blossoming home. And so there were always kids and animals. And, if something was in trouble, you helped it out. And that probably stuck through life because I've always picked up animals and, taken them to the doctor and taken care of their medical needs and found them homes up until about 2008. And then there were no homes to find because we'd run into the recession, and that was a very, very different time, and there were so many animals thrown away, so many animals starving. That was tough, and people kept coming to my home and throwing dogs over the fence, and I'd come home and there would be more animals there. And I came home one day and there was a 200-pound enclosure at the top of my 3-tier staircase, and it had a snake in it. It has a snake in it, and it said, "This is Venom. He's really a nice snake. He's just had a rat, so he's full. Don't worry about him, but I'm pregnant and I can't keep this snake, so please take care of him for me. I heard that you will save animals." That was what was on the note. And so I found him a very good home quickly.
Quickly. That's the operative word.
Quickly.
Wow. So other people that could help, and you've developed probably a little bit of connections with other people. So I know you have horses too, or you love horses. Horses,
I have 4.
Dogs. You have 4.
I have 4.
And you mentioned something about teaching your granddaughters how to ride.
Well, I am not teaching them how to ride. Someone else is teaching them how to ride. Yes.
Were the horses rescues too?
Yes, they were. Became involved because there was a large Belgian draft, and he was on going on a slaughter truck, and so that was how I became involved in getting a horse. And funny story, I named him Senator after Senator Walter Stern, who lived 2 doors down from me, and I just adored Senator Stern. We were very close, and I took care of his and Mrs. Stern's yard from the time that I was 13 to about 15. They had animals. They didn't have a sprinkler system. It was kind of the old times in the neighborhood, and so I took care of their watering and feeding of their animals every day and picking up their mail and paper, and I just thought the world of them as a couple. And so here was this regal animal who came in, and I named him Senator.
I love that.
And the others have followed. So
anyway,
the other horses have followed. Yeah.
Okay, so Walter Stern was that's the Budweiser horse, right?
He's not a Clydesdale. He's a Belgian draft. So he's the blonde. He's the blonde horse. But they're massive.
Stocky,
they're about 3 times the size of a regular horse.
So they must eat a lot.
They eat a lot, and you can't just get on them. You have to. They're so big. You have to get on the hood of a truck to get on them.
Oh, wow.
They're very large.
So, but you do ride them?
I sit on him, and I pet him, and I give him food, and I enjoy him.
And you say, "Hi, Senator."
I just have very.
Oh, and then you have 3 others. What kind of horses are they?
Well, the second one is also a Belgian draft, and the third is a paint Arabian mix, and the 4th is a paint.
Okay, and those are the ones
that are they're closer to the ground. They're more my speed.
Okay.
I might get beyond a passive a point of just sitting on them and doing more, but I had decided that before I skied again or before I ever rode again that I would retire, so that if I fell on my bean, I didn't hurt any other human being.
I gotcha. So now that you're moving to that chapter, you're gonna.
Oh yes, I'll be very active with the animals.
Very exciting. I love that about you. I love your heart for sharing and caring for animals. That's wonderful. So another question I have is, what do you feel most happy about having accomplished in your 8 years as the director of the Department of Human Services? I know there's many, many things that were mentioned. Is there one thing in particular that you're most happy about or most proud of?
I'm so proud of the staff and all that we've accomplished, but one of the things that stands out the most to me is the effort to keep children within their family circle. So if you can't get them back to their mother and father for some reason, and it is safe and appropriate for them to be with a relative, I think that is, it's critical that they're there, because those are their family members. Those are their forever ties. It's their culture. And I feel very strongly about that. And it's been hard because when I took the directorship in 2014, the laws were not aligned with that philosophy. That didn't happen until 2017. And I had to push a little here and there to maybe not totally follow all of the rules perfectly to get children with their family members, but all of our data that's collected for the Berkeley data, etc., every time you move a child, it's a break in placement, and then there are all kinds of ramifications for having your data not look good. And I told the staff that I just was far more concerned about how a child moves forward in life and their outcomes than I am about data, and that we would fight that fight separately. And so it was quite a shift for the workers, because, where there are absolute rules, we follow the rules. And so that was difficult to push back a little in courts and things like that. But I've been so proud of the staff for making every effort to get children back to their families quickly, and even on site when a child is taken to do family finding and background checks right there on the spot, and perhaps spare a child entering the system and allow them to be placed with an extended family member, or nerf them, someone who's familiar to the family, a neighbor that they're close to, that they're with all the time. I can only imagine how traumatizing it is for a child to be put through the process of entering into Jameson and all that you need to go through for the appropriate checks there.
Yeah.
But how frightening. If you start to think about your own child going through that. And, no parent would want that. No.
And I think when I think about all the efforts in the last, 10 years, 8 years, family finding is a huge effort.
And we've been recognized statewide for being so far ahead of other counties in our family finding efforts. It was the right thing to do. And with regard to Jameson, it serves a purpose, and it's peaceful, it's lovely. Those little children can look to the sunshine and feel safe, and they want to be there. That's like a little slice of heaven for them, for whatever they've come through. And we're just trying to get absolutely the right placement for them, but they don't live there. They stay there for a short amount of time, and they're buoyed and adored and move forward, and then we get them linked with the right family.
Yeah, and you mentioned that today at the Board of Supervisors meeting, how important it is that we keep the Jameson Children's Center here in Kern County. That is so crucial, isn't it? That not every county has a shelter like we do.
There are only 8 now. When we fought the fight between 14 and 17, 2014 and 17, there were 10, and now there are 8. But you look at, other shelters aren't necessarily what we have in Kern County. If you look at the shelter in San Francisco, for instance, it was in the basement of a hospital. That's one of the ones that closed. I can't imagine that being a warm, nurturing environment. And here at Jameson, we have a garden, and we have beautiful rompus rooms where the kids can play, and we have a music room, and we have a football field size park, and we have a school, and we've got playground equipment, and there's just the people that are there are trained to de-escalate situations and really provide intensive services to those children that leave them better off walking out than they were when they came in.
Absolutely. And even just when you first walk in, or when the children are first brought in, there's that fish tank right there that they see, which was provided by the community. And we really have an amazing community that helps our Jameson Children's Center, don't we?
Yes, we've had the Westchester Kiwanis with us for 35 years now, caring for the grounds. And our downtown Rotary Club has fixed so many things around Jameson. There's a lot of participation from community members, and not just what they donate, but what they will do for the children at the center. They provide Condors tickets, and they provide gifts for Christmas, and they provide parties if a child's there and having a birthday party. They shelter them, and they help take care of them as an entire community.
I love that. And I know IKEA has donated furniture, and when we were just there on Saturday. When you mentioned the Harvest of Hope Garden, what a beautiful garden that is! How
it is
such a nurturing place for a child to get out of their head and their situation and get in the dirt and plant things.
So cute. This weekend, there were about a dozen children, and they were wandering around the garden, and the peppers are out, and they wanted to be eating the hot peppers, and so they gave them bottles of water and a little clean rag so they could wipe their hot peppers off before they ate them. I would die if I ate a hot pepper, but it was just the cutest thing. They were just so happy.
They were.
Yeah.
And there was one little boy that just loved you, didn't he? He just clung to you, didn't want you to leave the day. He was so
and he
sweet.
knew my name, and he kept using
He
it.
did.
He just melted me. I really wanted to leave with him.
When you left, he said, "I'm going to miss her."
Yeah.
So sweet.
He was, and I have the pot that he and the others planted, and I just know all their little hands went in that dirt to make those beautiful plants grow.
In the middle, that was beautiful.
It was.
Yeah, it's that garden is a really nice accomplishment, and you're right. Our Jameson Children's Center, it is a place of, I'm proud that we have that here, and I hope
am
that
too.
we continue.
It's a place of serenity.
It is a place of serenity, and we have good people there. So, I know that we just hope that continues to stay. So, Dena, another thought that we had, or a question, is as you do move into your next chapter, is there a message or something that you would like to say to the DHS staff as as we get a new director and move in another maybe direction? Is there something you'd like to sort of give to us with your words?
Well, I believe that this is the strongest executive staff team that I've ever worked with, and we have Cindy Utz as the Chief Deputy Director, and Maria Bermudez as the Child Welfare Assistant Director, Adriana Kessler as the Employment and Financial Services Assistant Director, Vanessa Frando as the Program Support Assistant Director, and Susan Casterline has just retired last week as the Fiscal Officer, and we now have Hal Hunter as the Fiscal Officer moving forward for us, and Dan Miller as HR Manager on the heels of having had Debbie Davis. But I think no matter who becomes the director, they're going to be surrounded by people with such talent and such passion that the forward movement that started years ago will continue. You have to remember there was an investment in excellence, and it was really to change the core of people and look to the future and not to get stuck in what had happened in the past, but a fair perspective of place a person to their strengths, try to find the strengths in people, try to help people grow, look for the best in them, and assume positive intent, and really allow people to flourish. And I think if each of us around other staff can look for the best qualities in individuals and buoy them and allow them to grow in a safe environment, that I think that would be an ask on my part. But keep the faith, be steadfast. We don't know who the director will be at this point. The interviews are going to be held on the 15th, and the 15th will be my last day, so I would hope and anticipate that we would have an announcement on the 15th. But the people leading the exec staff and the people working for the exec staff and our line staff, our commitment years ago, about 4 years ago, when we went through and aligned our vision, mission, value statement with our goals and outcomes in our strategic plan, was so that in writing we would be totally aligned with what we were asking people to do, and that's how we would train the people, so that everyone had the potential to be successful. And so I remember early on saying, it's like we've got a sprinkler and we've got a little bit of water going everywhere, and what we need is a fire hose. So let's direct our efforts and really make a difference, and then make sure that we don't have a punitive environment. As long as people are following policy, there should be no ramifications. You have to coach people, and you have to allow them to grow. And if you're not falling down along the way and making some mistakes, you're probably not growing. And we do want to grow our staff, and we want them to feel confident in their decisions. And I think that by staying positive and committed to treasuring our staff, because those are the individuals who serve those who need services. And it's who are you, who is your audience, who are you talking to, who are you working for? It's multifaceted, always. Any message that comes out, you're talking to the board, the public, our staff, our clients, and just be transparent and honorable and make the message real. And that should be palatable to everybody, because if you're working with positive intent, that will come through.
I love that so much, Dena, and I'm so glad you mentioned the investment excellence. That really, I think that really changed the trajectory of a lot of the ways we interact with people here. I have seen it change. I was privileged to attend, and I have seen that shift of it isn't punitive. It is, like you say, trying to help people grow with their strengths. And if there's a struggle, we get training. So I think that has really changed our department. I think that thank you that you brought that to our department. That has been a real blessing. I've seen that.
Thank you.
Really love that. So is there anything else that we've missed that you would just like to talk about in your journey of becoming, first of all, the chief deputy and then the director, and so many other jobs along the way here? But is there anything else that you would like to impart or leave with us?
It just isn't something that you do alone. There's so much help from the outside, and I don't think that staff realize how, like there was a question about, well, why do you want to do a barbecue at Jameson? And I said, well, because someday it will become very important that people are as in love with Jameson as we are. And that's not just the community, it's our board members who hadn't been invited to Jameson. And it was a thank you, but it was also an opportunity for them to have an opportunity to fall in love with Jameson. And we have businesses and service club folks, and you look at the businesses that we have. When you talked about IKEA, it's Stinson's, it's Exemplar, it's Greg Bynum, it's Larry Rhodes and his wife with the Gatsby Gala, it's and different things. Dave with Imbibe, and providing contributions that got wonderful donations to try to win the parties that he would offer at that Gatsby Gala, and Carl from American Jewelry Company. It's so unique where all the people that would give to us would come from, and my goodness sakes, the Network for Children and what they have been able to do with our kids. A license should be a rite of passage, for a 16, 17-year-old youth, and that's how they take care of themselves, and that's how they get a job. And and our foster kids can't do that. And through the money that's meant to fill gaps where government doesn't follow through with paying for, we've really been able to do a lot in with that nonprofit organization. And we partner with Tom Corson, who's absolutely incredible and a one-of-a-kind model in the state with the Dream Center. And he just has the ability to take care of the driver's test, and we have the ability through our nonprofit to take care of the costs of the training, and all coordinated through him, and we get those kids the opportunity to get to drive. Or you have another child last year, 4.0 student, and had a scholarship to a major university out of state, but he didn't have the money for the first 2 weeks of being in the room, and it was kind of a make or break. It was just really dorm. There was just a gap because the time clock for school hadn't actually started, and he needed to be there early, and we made sure that he had the money for that, and the money for a sweatshirt and a yearbook and a school class ring, and a little bit in his pocket to take care of him in the beginning. And that's where you just get a youth over the hill who's already going to be successful.
So that was part of your vision for the Kern Partnership for Children and Families, to be able to financially bridge those gaps that you're
Yes,
talking about
absolutely.
for the driver's license. And then Tom Corson with the Network for Children was able to put that into practice with getting the driver's licenses for the kids through the funding, right? Is that what
Yes,
you're,
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And so that you mentioned too, another of your hopes for the future is to stay participating in the Kern Partnership for Children and Families on the board.
Yes,
And-
we have a meeting this weekend, and then
Good.
we'll see if they vote me in as a community member, and I think they will. And I am going to come back and work in the garden with the children at Jameson,
Good.
and I am going to go to the Dream Center and do some
Teach
cooking with the
cooking.
kids, and maybe even take them shopping and teach them how to pick produce and prepare it to
Farmers
cook.
markets
Yes,
and-
absolutely. Probably not a farmer's market to
Maybe
start
not.
with. I love them, but boy, they run a little higher.
They do. A little bit of organic stuff is always a little higher. But
Yeah.
are you hoping the gala continues, the partnership? The
You know,
gala,
we
you're thinking?
we had decided that we would run that for 5 years, and it probably would have been fabulous, thinking about the Gatsby in the 20s and coming up on 2020, but 2019 was our 5th year.
That's
And
right.
how fortunate for us that we said we would do it just 5 years, because
Right before
then
that, COVID
then
hit,
then
right?
COVID hit,
Yeah.
and everything stopped. It was a different time, and I definitely had thought I might leave a little earlier than I did. I had committed to the board that I would stay 5 years, and I stayed 8, but I could not leave when
In the
we
middle of
were
that.
in such a precarious time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm so glad that you did stay through this time. And
So am I. I feel very peaceful about the time and leaving, and about the talented staff, and all the changes in forward movement that I think are so ingrained at this point that you could not stop the momentum. It is more a culture of change and looking for service excellence at every turn, and looking for efficiencies at every turn. And I think this department very much embraced Lean Six Sigma, and I think it was very valuable that we made the investments with some external vendors to look at our child welfare services processes and manual processes becoming something that technology could solve for us and automate, and because we so often find ourselves having to do more with fewer people at this point in time. So that's another tremendous accomplishment.
it sure is.
Yeah.
And this last year, we've all learned how to use Zoom and Teams and a lot more
And
technology.
I don't think we'll ever go back for that.
I don't think
And
so. I think
I
it's-
remember when COVID broke in March, and I stood before the board and I said, this is a hard thing to say, but I think that there will be a silver lining to COVID and sending us home. We are going to achieve a much higher level of use of technology, and we're
Absolutely.
not going to believe it when we look back.
Yeah.
And that came to fruition.
And it kind of seems like it had to happen for everyone to trust everyone to work in this manner.
We didn't get a
Almost-
choice, did we?
We didn't get a
we
choice.
Were,
yeah.
we were thrown into this. We were forced.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like today, they mentioned CPS, one of the first in the state to work from home, the emergency response social workers, and a lot of things that we've done here at Kern in the Department of Human Services. So I'm proud to work here, Dena, and I'm so happy and honored to be able to interview you today.
Well,
And
thank you.
I'm grateful.
I'm very proud of all of the staff and their career, and really the length of my career is a testament to how incredible the staff have been. I would not, and no director would, survive as long as I have without incredible people around them.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Dena, and we're excited for your future. I'm sure we'll be seeing you around the city as you help in different ways with the kids and various things. So thank you for being our guest today, Dena.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
This is your co-host Paula Hernandez, and in today's Mindful Minute, we will be talking about music therapy. Have you ever felt your mood lighten up because of a song? I know I have. I've even heard some people swear that sound baths were amazing, and I know we have one here in downtown Bakersfield that I'm itching to try. Or I've also seen on the Travel Channel that a tuning fork therapy method that can put you in a calm state just by clicking a pitchfork-looking instrument that sends out vibrational sounds. But before I start rambling, let's get into the science of music therapy. From a study produced by Reno University, they conducted research that proved music can have a profound effect on both emotions and the body. Faster music can make you feel more alert and concentrate better. Upbeat music can make you feel more optimistic and positive about life. And slower tempo can quiet your mind and relax your muscles, making you feel soothed while releasing the stress of the day. In another case, there was a study being performed on several patients who were having surgery. There were two separate groups, a control group that had surgery without music, and the experimental group who listened to music during surgery. Research found that patients who listened to music while undergoing surgery had lower levels of cortisol. In conclusion, music can be a very effective relaxation and stress management tool. So what type of music can you listen to reduce stress, you ask? Sounds of rain is one of them, and nature sounds are another, particularly when mixed with other music, such as light jazz, classical, and easy listening music. But in the end, it's all relative to what you enjoy. For me, my go-to is Dua Lipa and Elton John's mashup song called Cold Heart. I have that on repeat, and it's more upbeat than a classical music, but it puts me in a good mood and gets me ready for my day. What will your music therapy playlist consist of? This has been your Mindful Minute.
Thank you for joining us for the Heartbeat of Human Services podcast today. We hope you'll join us next time.